BlazzinBob gets nothing effect. Has that one taken away by Troy Hellman. It seems like this could be.
Hello and welcome to the Overwatch League recap, a talk show focusing on the Overwatch League. I am BlazzinBob, and as usual, I'm joined by a couple usual suspects. Andreas, aka I Play Games. How you doing, brother?
Hello, I'm doing really good. Just finished my lemon pepper wings, and I'm ready to talk Overwatch League.
Yeah, you ate those wings faster than I've ever seen anyone put down wings.
They were good.
Oh, and once again, we are joined by the lovely Mel Overwatch. What's going on, Mel?
Hey, not much. Having a little withdrawals from no Overwatch League, but, you know, we'll get there.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? And today, joined by a special guest, but one of our team, our post-match correspondent, Brick McVictory, a.k.a. Victor. What's going on, Brick?
What's up, guys? How you doing? Happy to be back. Third time on the show. First time with Andres, so I'm pretty amped.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
We finally got together.
Finally.
Oh, man. Well, we have an action-packed show for you guys tonight, but as always, I'd like to start the show by thanking our recap producers, Shazir and Ridiculous Brent. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. So tonight we have news, and then we're going to kind of go through that pretty quickly, but we're going to do power rankings. I know I've talked smack on power rankings all the time, but it's just stage 2 power rankings, so I feel that's okay because that makes sense. But season power rankings just don't make sense to me. And everybody seems to love power rankings, so we're going to go ahead and do it. And if we have time, we are going to hit on 2 listener questions that we have. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. First off, Overwatch League was on ABC, the finals and the semifinals. Mel wants to tell us a little bit about the stats on that.
Yeah, so I think everybody was wondering kind of how it did. It was also right in the midst of March Madness, which is a big sporting event. But it was pretty cool. It did pretty well. The grand finals pulled in 367,000 viewers on Sunday, and on Saturday for the semifinals, we had about 306,000 viewers. So, to be fair, it's not
Hey,
huge
we're still
numbers.
beating golf.
Yeah, we're beating golf. We beat an NHL game. We beat the CSGO, I think, tournament or something. So it's definitely a good start.
Yeah, I think those are honestly, I think those are great numbers for first time on national television kind of a thing.
Right.
Pretty solid.
It's not something people were expecting to have to watch, right? Like they were.
I think those are at least like returning numbers, right? Like, we'll have this programming again.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and during March Madness too. So, yeah, I think it was definitely a win.
Yeah, everybody not into basketball was like, "Whew, what else is on?"
Even some people like that were into basketball, like myself. Still watched Overwatch.
There you go. Why not both?
Yeah, why not both? Both.
There were some good tweets, some bad tweets. There were some bait tweets that got a few people, but either way, it got eyes looking on the Overwatch League, and it got a lot of eyes looking on it. So if you only take in a fraction of those as new fans, I mean, you've definitely done your due diligence. And so if they keep getting spots like that, it's going to help out a lot.
For sure.
Yeah.
So then to
yeah,
oh, sorry.
you hop right in, Mel.
Yeah, so then looking at, I just think the TV scene coverage, I think, is really cool. So there was this kind of interview with Bishu on CBS News talking about just how professional esports is a viable option now. And Bishu kind of joked in the interview of like, yeah, I mean, I used to joke with people like, hey, I play video games, right? He's like, but now it's real. I really do play video games for a living, and I don't just live in my mom's basement, like it was really funny. And I just think the more coverage that esports gets in the national news, the better. And the more parents stop trying to get their kids to stop playing video games and things like that.
Yeah, it's just interesting how that generation works, but I'm just talking from the perspective of my parents, specifically my mom. It's really interesting because for her, the stuff that happens online is not really real until she sees it on TV. If she sees it on TV or the news, she's like, "Oh my god, this is happening." And it's really funny because for many years I've been talking to her about like, there's Twitch and there's streaming, and then Overwatch League kind of came out, and I would tell her about like my podcasting, and I'll be like, "Hey, they're starting a league. They're trying to imitate like, real sports, and like there's everyone's gonna get paid." And she would find it like mildly interesting, but kind of like brush it off pretty fast, right? And it wasn't until like the other day that she called me and she's like, "Did you know that these players are getting paid $50,000 to play this video game?" And I'm like, "Yes, mom, I've been telling you for like a whole year." But
She's
it's
like,
Did you
why
tell
are
her
you
that
making
was?
50,000?
Did you tell her that that was the actual the bare minimum that they could make?
Yeah, no, she was already like blown away that like these people have careers and all this stuff. But I think that yeah, for like older generations, it is not really significant until they see it in their own mediums, right? Like Twitch
Right.
is not their medium, so to them that's just kind of like a child's website or something, right? But when they see it in the news or in the channels like ABC, that's like, oh wait, this is like a thing.
Right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, just letting everybody know that the All-Star voting is now up, and you can go vote for your favorite your favorite All-Star. Have you guys voted?
I have not yet. No, I have not.
I did cast my vote.
I voted.
Guess who I voted for?
Dafran.
It was not the friend. It was not the friend. It was actually Jinmu from Chengdu Hunters.
Oh,
there you
Doesn't
go.
want to see more Jinmu.
I want to see more Jinmu. That guy's insane at that fair.
yes.
Yeah, I gotta wait for the Valiant to start winning games before I start voting. So
Ooh, good luck with that.
yeah,
What about you, Mel?
Well, I had to represent my Outlaws, so I voted for a couple Outlaws, I think. And then, oh man, I don't know. I voted when it first came out. It was a long time ago. I don't remember who I voted for. Maybe Dafran.
So, did you guys see that the Fran Twitter post that the Atlanta Rain posted today?
no, I missed it.
It was like two pictures of the Fran, one with like a little mustache, the Fran, and
I did see that, yeah.
And the caption was like April 4th or something like that. And people were like, "Don't be teasing." Were they trying to tease that the Fran is not leaving the league?
Dude, I don't believe anything.
I don't know.
April
At this
1st.
yeah,
I
at this
mean,
point, it's like
This
could be
isn't even
anything.
yeah, this isn't even really a podcast. This is just a joke. Like this isn't even really a show. I mean, this is April 1st.
Everything you're listening is just a joke.
Nothing. I mean, you can't take anything serious at
True,
this moment.
True.
But yeah, I didn't vote yet. I'm still kind of on the fence, but I'm probably gonna vote for someone on Fuel, probably AKM.
His time might come this season. Soldiers looking so good.
Soldiers
Dude,
looking strong.
I messaged him about that today. I was like, "You think Soldier's coming back?" And he hasn't answered yet, but I'll let you know what he says. So the Vancouver Titans announced home games will be played at the Rogers Arena in 2020. Do you want to tell us something about this, Mel?
Yeah, I mean it's the Canucks, the hockey team arena, and it seats like 18,000 people. And so
it's basically the same arena that they already own, right? It's the one they introduced the team to, like during a game. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think the ownership group of the Canucks is the same one that owns the Titans, which is why the color scheme's the exact same. So that would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Nice, yeah. Those are the type of ownership groups that could possibly get a team into season 3 if you already have
Yeah.
an arena that is capable of hosting. This
Yeah. Well,
That's pretty cool though. So in sadder news, Dafran is no longer popping off in the Overwatch dude.
We
Dafran
think.
retires.
Oh, the Fran.
Yeah, I don't
To be
think
honest,
this is a thing.
This didn't come out of like the blue. To be honest, like I think that he was very flip floppy to begin with in the league. I was surprised that he actually decided to sign. I was really happy for him. He had a great debut, but we were talking about this the other day, and I think he got the seagull effect, right? Like now he realized, hey, I'm at the league and this is actually my daytime job. And I know like people like Deathblow will always say like Overwatch League to me would never feel like a daytime job, right? But at the end of the day, when you join Overwatch League, you stop playing just for yourself, right? Just for your own sake. Even when you're Twitch streaming, you're just doing it for yourself. If you miss a day of streaming or anything, like nobody cares except for you, right? It just affects you. Maybe your fans will be like a little bit disappointed, but I mean, they'll get over it pretty fast. But now that you're in the Overwatch League, there's a lot of pressure on you. You have responsibilities and demands to meet, right? Like you have to be showing up to the place at a certain schedule. Teammates are counting on you. Your management's counting on you. The fans are counting on you, and everything that you do is kind of like public, right? You're just like a public figure at that point. People want interviews with you, and your life starts becoming less about what you want to do and explore, and more about like these responsibilities that you have to like accomplish. And for somebody like the friend, which already has a Twitch following, already has a successful Twitch stream like Seagull, I think it makes more sense to just do that and not have all that responsibility on your back. I don't know. That's just what I think.
Yeah, and Victor has a little bit of insight on it's possible that Dafran was planning on leaving even earlier than they stated. Victor tried to get him for interviews. You want to talk about that, Vic?
yeah. We tried asking for interviews a few weeks back, and we kept getting turned down on the interviews, just being told that he's not taking interviews right now. It's quite possible. There's no evidence of this, obviously, but it's quite possible that the league had a hint that he planned on leaving after the stage, and just were trying to like avoid getting too much press out there on him with him knowing he was leaving. I mean, it kind of felt like this was coming anyway when you look at it. Like he almost quit at the beginning of the season too, right? Like there was that hot second where he tweeted he was quitting and wasn't going to do it. So I mean, I think it kind of hurts the league more than it hurts him. I mean, if you look at it, he probably has the biggest play of the season so far with the Zarya play. That's probably the play of the season so far. His jersey
True.
sales were #1 in the league. So like I think this is probably worse news for the league as a whole than it is for him. But
Yeah, especially for Atlanta. Atlanta is losing a big chunk. Like I'm almost afraid of stage 2 without the friend.
Yeah, they
yeah.
definitely dropped in my power rankings for sure. Mel,
Yeah.
what did you think about this? Because I know you weren't a big fan of Dafran when we were going into season 2.
It wasn't that I wasn't a big fan. I just had my doubts about his stability as a human being. And I think I'm proud of the way that Dafran went about it. I think that it was really awesome that he finished out the stage, that he was able to leave in a very mature manner as opposed to quitting on stream or something like that. And that, yes, he left his team at the end of stage 1, which sucks, but at least he gave them that time to kind of try to fill in the gaps, right? He didn't do it after the signing window had closed. He didn't do it mid stage 1 or mid stage 2. I think he handled this as maturely as possible. And I think good for him for not taking the other road that I know probably would have been easier for him, right? He wanted to just throw his hat in the ring and say, forget you. I want my comfy streamer life, right? And then he announces on stream he's going to be a dad which no, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. But he did try
Oh, I
to
was about
troll
to say,
his
what?
chat. He tried to troll his chat, telling him that he's not coming back because he's going to be a dad.
His stream is hilarious. He's like the
Papa
king of
Dafran.
memes. They lost against Philadelphia Fusion, I think his first stream was a crying stream where he just recorded himself. I think he was probably like faking or something, but he recorded like 5 minutes of himself just making crying sounds, and it was just pictures of really sad people in his stream, and that went on for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I saw that. But I guess what I took from this is I am proud of his growth as a player, as a professional, and as a human being. We have come way far from the days of throw for Dafran, and I believe his name is cleared now, and you can really look at him with respect and admiration of what he did and the way he did it, the way he went about it, the way he stuck through it, even though he wanted to quit after week 1. I mean, it was a lot for him, and I
Dude,
just have to tip my hat.
That Torb strategy, well, that's gonna stick in Overwatch for a while. He left
Yep.
a small legacy there.
Definitely. I just hope somebody else has the, is got, I don't know what word to use, has the confidence to use
You
Torb.
gotta carry on that legacy, yeah. Somebody has to take the baton now.
You already passed it to Dogman, I'm sure.
Yep.
Solo heal Torb. Lock it in.
So in other news, Funny Astro joins Atlanta Reign as a two-way player. I don't know a ton about Funny Astro. Does anybody else have something to add about this?
Funny Astro is one of the best Lucios in Europe. He is a ladder monster, and he's been playing in open division, I think some contender stuff. I think he was banned for a while for account boosting, if I'm not wrong. I might be though. I'm not like 100% on this, but I know that he was banned for.
Damn, if you are wrong, that's a bummer. He's like a real good guy, never been banned. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Andres is right there.
There was a reason why he wasn't playing before, because he is an insane Lucio, and I'm glad that he's getting picked up because he's a guy that I've tried to have on OmniClap for strategies and stuff. He's very mild-mannered, he's very chill, and he does some insane things on Lucio. So, like, I'll watch him carry matches on his own, on ladder, on Lucio. The one thing that surprised me, though, is that I don't know if Atlanta is missing a Lucio, though. Like Masa was doing relatively good, and I guess having two sick Lucios is awesome. But right now we need a carry DPS.
I wonder if they're doing it just in case one, he's a two-way player, right? So just in case Masa gets sick or something, they'd have a backup. But also, I think he plays Mercy too, and I don't know if Masa plays Mercy at all.
I do think he plays a little bit of Mercy, and Mercy is getting a little more attention in this patch.
Right, so maybe just in case, they're like, we might as well have somebody on our two-way contract that can step up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the two-way contract's a pretty clear indicator of their plans for him. Like, they want to put him on an academy team and keep him there for a while, see how he does there, and then maybe move him up.
Make a decision then, yeah.
Yeah.
That or
now that the teams know how two-way contracts work, that is.
yeah. That's been clarified.
We will see. We will see.
Yeah, well, and I mean, always having a backup always keeps your starters in line a little bit better. It's just a smart idea to always have a backup and never have a player holding too much power over the organization.
Yeah, it keeps the player having to work hard too. Competition breeds success, right? So it makes him have to stay on top of his game. He can't get complacent, can't get lazy.
Yep. So in other news, we have some new sponsors for one of the Texas teams. Dallas Fuel is now sponsored by GameStop, along with the Houston Outlaws.
Biased opinion is not welcome here. He posted in Discord. He's like, Fuel gets sponsored by GameStop. And I was like, did you just forget about, like, they literally announced it at probably the same time.
To be fair, Dallas Team Envy sent me the press release, and Houston didn't send me anything, so I can only report on what I'm sent.
Well, do you ever use Twitter?
I mean,
Because
the obvious meme here is that they didn't actually sponsor it. The owner of Dallas tried to sell Dallas to GameStop, and he only got a pack of Skittles and 37 cents back for his investment.
it's a bummer.
It's a bad joke. It's a bad joke. So Dallas and Team Envy also partnered with Acer, which is pretty cool too. Houston didn't partner with Acer.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, good news for Dallas picking up the sponsors.
Oh,
And
winning
I guess
helps with
Houston
that.
too.
Definitely. I mean, it's just cool to see sponsors for any team. I'm just glad I ordered my custom jersey before the new sponsors, so I don't have extra stuff all over it.
Oh, I hate that, but it's
Yeah.
a necessary evil.
I'm really
Yeah.
hoping this new jersey doesn't have the jacket box thing in the very center.
Don't they still have that?
I don't know. I didn't look when I ordered it because we ordered them so late at night.
Pretty sure that's still a thing.
I think
Sucks
so
to
too.
suck.
All right,
Guess who
well.
doesn't have a Jack in the Box logo in the front of their neck?
Makes them better, right? All right, well, that is the quick fire news. Let's go ahead and jump into power rankings.
Yes, let's do this. I'm excited.
All right, so first off, I have to go in here and pull down. We're going to show you 5 at a time. If you're watching the video version, you will get to see that. If you're not, we will have each person list out their 5 as I reveal them each time. This time, we're going to start with Andreas.
Can we preface this a little bit with the fact that this is just for stage 2?
I did.
And we have zero idea what the meta is gonna be.
And to be fair, like for me, even like stage when I ranked mine, it's right now. Like that could change in 2-3 weeks. Who knows where we're at in 2-3 weeks? So this is kind of where I feel like everything is.
All
right
I
now.
hear is excuses.
No, not an excuse. Just a context.
Context. I like it. All right. Andreas, give us your 20 through 16, starting with 20.
All right, number 20, Washington Justice, a team that I don't see improving. They have picked up a few players, but they look so disconnected this past season or this past stage that I'm giving them no hopes. Florida Mayhem coming up next because even after one season of experience, they still haven't shown that they are good enough. So at this point, I see no redeeming factor in it. Then Paris Eternal, I think that they started real strong. I think they were decent on GOATs. They showed that they were kind of struggling on other stuff. Also, worst Zarya player in the entire stage, Shadowburn. Quick little fact for you guys. So, I don't know. I put them at 18. Then Hangzhou Spark, and then Shanghai Dragons at 16, redeeming themselves from last stage.
Awesome. Perfect rundown. Like do it fast like that, and any counterpoints we could hit after everybody's listed theirs. Mel, why don't you go next?
I think the bottom 5 are fairly easy, right? So I have Florida Mayhem at the very bottom, mainly with what I said. They've already had a year to try to get things together. They didn't get it together. So sorry. I put LA Valiant at 19. I think LA Valiant beats Mayhem only because some of their games were a lot closer. And hopefully they can try to capitalize on some of that and pull some more wins or some wins out this next season or this next stage. Number 18, I put Washington Justice. And the reason I put Washington Justice at 18 instead of 20 is because I really love Arc. And I think Arc is going to do wonders for this team. I don't care what anybody says. 17, I have Shanghai Dragons. I think they've moved up in the rankings, mainly because everybody else has moved down. But yeah, I think they might pull something out in stage 2. We still haven't seen any DPS from anybody. I don't know if we will, but we'll see. And then I have Hangzhou Spark at 16. I think they were just very mediocre team. Didn't show me a lot of promise, but didn't show me that they were just throwing like LA Valiant. So they get to go to 16.
Sick.
Awesome. All right. Brick Mick Victory, you're up next.
All right, so I wanted to put my Valiant at 20 just because they haven't given me a win, and I kind of wanted to kick them in the pants for not winning anything, but I didn't. So I put Florida at 20. Biggest reason is they haven't looked great. They've only got one win. Their only win was against Philly, and the Philly team that didn't have Boombox at the time. But they also lost to 4 teams with losing records. Teams like Chengdu, Guangzhou, Houston, and Washington.
Listen, Chengdu, everybody can lose to Chengdu and it'd be fine.
Yeah, fair. So at 19, I put Washington, almost for the exact same reason. They're 1-6. They didn't really beat any big name teams. Matter of fact, the only team they have beat is Florida. And then they also lost to London and Paris, teams with losing records as well. But their other losses were pretty like good teams. Like they lost to New York, Philly, they lost to San Fran and Seoul. And they also added ARC, so I think they're going to be better. I don't think they're going to be, much better, but they will be better. 17, I put the Valiant. They don't have any wins yet, but if you look at their record, they could easily be 5-2, not 0-7. Like they've literally.
Wait, hold on.
That's 18. You upped him a rank here.
Yeah.
You have LA
Yeah,
Valiant.
I'm sorry. I said 8. I said 17. My mistake. Yeah, 18. I'm sorry.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, 18. I'm sorry. 18 is correct. Yeah. But yeah, so I have. If you look at it, they've lost 5 games by 1 map, and a couple of those games were teams like New York, Toronto, and Philly, which were all playoff teams. At 17, I put Chengdu. They've shown they're probably the most fun team to watch right now. They beat Atlanta with Dafran, so that I liked that about them. But if you look at their games, they lost to like teams like Vancouver, Toronto, and Seoul, which were all playoff teams. So I had them there, and then 16 is kind of my one I don't feel the best about, but I put London there because if you look at their record, they've won 3 games. They haven't beat anybody that has a winning record. They lost to Paris and Shanghai. Only the second team, or I think they were the second team to lose to Shanghai. Obviously, we all saw the Boston thing. And then their other losses were like Seoul and Philly too, which were while playoff teams, they weren't the strongest of playoff teams. So that's why I put them at 16.
Nice. All right. So I have the Washington Justice at 20. Yes, ARC's going there, but until I see what the team plans to do with them, I can't trust it. I think if they do plan on starting ARC, and ARC is a mainstay, he will, like Washington Justice, will definitely move up in the ranks. But until I see that, I can't move him up.
He is our savior.
Number 19, I have the LA Valiant. I mean, unless they start playing Custa regularly and they start doing things that make sense, I can't have them any higher. I'm going to have to see what their interim coach does, but for right now, no. At number 18, I have the Florida Mayhem. The Florida Mayhem, I don't care what you say, like they just haven't shown me anything, and they're just barely squeaking by. It seems like they still have no plan like last year. Number 17, I have the Houston Outlaws.
Get out of here.
The Houston Outlaws are just struggling hardcore. Muma looks confused. Jake's only in there part of the time, and he's probably the main shot caller. Linkser doesn't get to play DPS. I mean, they could level up a bit this stage, but until I see the meta changes, they are staying there. The Shanghai Dragons are my number 16, and I mean, honestly, they're lucky to move up to that. I mean, everybody's like big on them, but I don't think they're as good as everybody keeps hyping. So those are mine. Just on first look, like the London Spitfire at 16 for Victor. Like, oh, how the mighty have fallen, huh?
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, like we could see that completely change with the new meta, right? Like if the meta changes strongly enough to where they get to play some of their stronger DPS players in the roles that they're meant to be played, they could end up going like right back up towards the top of the list, right? They're 3 and 4. They're not far from some of the top teams. But But like I was looking at their schedule and their wins versus their losses, and for me they really didn't beat anybody that stands out. While they didn't really and a couple of their losses were to teams that you shouldn't be losing if you're considering yourself a top tier team. So that's kind of why I put them where I put them.
Gotcha. Both me and I play have Washington Justice as number 20. What was your thinking behind them being at number 20, even with the ARC thing coming in?
I just haven't seen any like seriously coordinated plays from them. It seems like they're playing the meta, but they're playing it more like a team that just got together from ranked. And I don't know if it's maybe because they haven't played together as much. They need some more time to gel as a team, but just in general, just a very disconnected team. They remind me of Florida Mayhem last season, which is even worse than the Florida Mayhem this season. This season, at least, they had some semblance of coordination.
Nice. And I see that Mel and Victor both have the Florida Mayhem at 20. What makes you think that they are the lowest team in the league?
Do I have to answer this question, or can I talk about something else?
Well, answer this one and then take it into what you want to talk about next.
Oh, Florida Mayhem. Like I said, they're just not good. And they haven't made enough changes to make me think that they're moving in the right direction. And they freaking lost to Washington Justice at the end there. Like, come on. Like, Washington Justice didn't have anything going for them, and they lose to them. So I think there's very minimal upside to Mayhem right now. Yes, they are basically a new team, and they can kind of fit in that expansion team category, but they're not. They were here last year. I don't care if any of their players were here last year. They were. And we need to see more from them before I can even consider putting them above 20.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of with her on that one. Like if you look, like they have 6 losses. 4 of them were against teams that are kind of like on the lower tiers of teams. Like they lost to like Washington, Guangzhou, Chengdu, Houston. I mean, they also lost to Boston and Atlanta, but I mean, again, Boston and Atlanta, good teams, not like they're upper echelon teams, but they weren't like gangbusters by any means. So I don't know. They haven't really shown me a whole lot. I do like, as someone in chat is saying, I do like McGravy and Apply as pieces for them. Maybe those are pieces they can build around in the new meta. Who knows? But at the current stage, I think they're appropriately placed.
What were you wanting to address, Mel?
Oh, I would just like to address the fact that you were wrong about Houston. And Jake did play all the time towards the end. They did not have any roster flip-flops. They had a solid 6, and they were looking much better.
Less than half of the stage, though, and there's no.
I'm pretty sure it was the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, hey, Jake Rat's back, baby. All right.
Right.
We'll see.
Leave him alone.
Okay.
I'm just saying you ranked them low, personal reasons, and you were wrong about your facts as you were ranking them.
Well, okay. So Andreas has the Paris Eternal at 18, and none of us have them in the bottom 5. Why do you feel Paris has dropped so far? I know you said Zarya, but going into next stage, it might not be as important. So why do you think Paris is still going to be low?
I think that Paris showed some promise at the beginning of the stage. Honestly, it was just a decision of, I don't know if they're gonna be doing that hot. I don't know if like their players are gonna be able to pull it out. We might have a slight change in meta next season. If we do, Paris might be okay switching just because of all their players, speak the same language. They have some camaraderie there. But I feel like they were falling short a lot of the time. Even with Goats out, I think that they didn't look that strong going against some of the other teams. So yeah, that one was mostly a matter of, I don't think Paris is going to do that hot base on last season, and just put them there.
But they're going to have their home field in the Paris map.
Right?
So, they're going to know that perfect, right?
I don't know if that helps.
Insider information, guys. Insider information.
Strong suit either way.
And as far as Paris goes, like I kind of see why he did it. Like I don't have him too much higher either personally. Like I think what like there's the whole going into the season, one of the things that Paris was talking about why they thought they were a strong team was because of the GOATS meta and their ability to work as a cohesive unit. But then you look and by the end of the first stage they're 3-4, they're struggling, it's kind of a tale of two stories, right? They start off super strong and then from there it's just kind of a nosedive. So
they got a little overconfident, I think, at the beginning.
Yeah,
and then didn't know how to handle adversity, right? Like once they lost, they couldn't pick themselves back up.
Yeah, so I think they started 2-0, and then they went 1-4 the next 5. So that's
Listen, watching the press conference with them after week 1, and then watching like the interview with them after week 4, it was like, okay.
It was different people almost.
Oh man, well, I don't know. Is there anything else anybody wants to point out for the bottom 5 picks 20 through 16?
I think we should move to the good stuff.
No, can I talk about one more thing?
Go right ahead.
Because I'm sorry, Victor, you're not allowed to rank the Chengdu Hunters that low without getting crap. Because either way, they get the fan vote. Like that at least puts them to 15. Come on, like
that's not how power rankings work.
It is how power rankings work. And
maybe I'll
they're the only ones. They're the only ones that have practiced DPS. So if DPS comes back in the meta, they are way ahead of the game.
Maybe you might be right. You could be right.
See, I don't think you can
we'll
say
do it.
that.
We'll come back and visit in 2 weeks.
We just haven't seen them go up against a lot of DPS versus DPS. They've done it a lot against the GOATS meta, but did you see them play the Titans? Because
the Titans brought out Hanzo. And
they did for a short time, but then the Hunters came in and changed to GOATS at that point, instead of staying DPS versus DPS. So
I believe in them.
That was the one thing that got them to switch to GOATS was another team matching them on DPS. So I don't know that you can say that. I'm not sure about that. But let's go ahead and reveal the next ones. So we'll do the same thing again. Let's go through. Whoops. This is hard to do. So let's go through. This time, let's start with Victor. Why don't you give your 15 through 11?
Yeah, so at 15, I have Paris, so I was pretty close to I play on that one. I wasn't far behind him, few spots up. I put Paris at 15 pretty much for the same reason. They went 3-4. They didn't really beat any top dogs. They beat the Gladiators, they beat London, they beat Washington. But then if you look at their losses, they lost to 4 playoff teams: Philly, San Francisco, Vancouver, and Atlanta. 2 of those teams were in the stage final. But the biggest reason I moved them kind of lower is because of those 4 losses, their map differential was they went 3-1. They lost 3-1 against Philly and Atlanta. Philly and San Fran. And then Vancouver and Atlanta, they got 4-0'd. So while they lost to good teams, they got pretty well handled by those good teams. So that's kind of where I put them at 15. 14, I put Guangzhou Spark. Same kind of reason. Didn't really beat any playoff teams. They beat Valiant, Glads, and Shanghai. And 2 of their other losses were against Houston and London. But their differential wasn't too terrible. They hung in those matches. So I put them at 14. 13, we have Shanghai. I'm a little bit higher on Shanghai than a lot of people. They did beat Boston, got their first win. That being said, that team didn't have fusions. We all know about the fusions debacle, so I won't spend too much time on that. And then they lost to, and 3 of their losses were against two teams. 2 of them were against Dallas, which were back to back, and then Vancouver. So while they have 4 losses, 3 of those teams are with a winning record currently. So they played some tougher competition. At 12, we have Mel's Houston Outlaws, just under the second half of the teams, right? They haven't really beat anybody of quality yet. They beat the Valiant, which, Valiant aren't winning anything. Florida, Guangzhou, but they haven't really lost to anybody either that was a bad loss. The 4 teams they lost to, all playoff teams: New York, Boston, Toronto, and Vancouver.
Yeah, and they've put up a pretty good fight.
Yeah, so if you look at their differential, they're only -3, so they've shown that while they haven't lost to teams that they shouldn't lose to, they haven't beat teams that they haven't lost to teams that they should lose to. Like they're losing to teams that they should be losing to, top tier teams. So if they start winning some of those games, you might even see them move up the rankings a little. But right now, I'm just kind of putting them there until they can prove to me they can beat teams that they shouldn't beat. And then at 11, I have
an acceptable response, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks, Mel. And then at 11, I put the Guangzhou Charge. Only a -1 differential, 3-4. They 4-0'd Dallas, which was kind of a big deal. But then they also lost to Chengdu and the Gladiators. But their other two losses were against Vancouver twice. So I mean, if you look at it, like they could even be looking at them at like a 5-2 team, but you run into Vancouver twice in one stage, your odds aren't looking too good. But the advantage to them is now they don't see Vancouver again for the rest of the season. So, yeah.
All right, cool. Mel, why don't you take it next?
Okay. I have Outlaws at 15. It's unfortunate, but they got to show me something.
You're giving Bob so much crap, and
I
you
know.
only have him 2 spots higher.
It doesn't matter. It was an important 2 spots. But I think that they can pull it together. I think that there is a lot of promise on that team. I know they work together very well as a team. They've just got some logistics to figure out. I think if it goes away from the GOATS meta, they'll actually be in a much stronger position because right now their team is just has strong players in the wrong spots that overlap too much and they can't pull it out. But I have faith that they will move up those rankings pretty quickly. At 14, I have Paris Eternal. Again, I think agreeing with everybody else, Paris is just kind of up and down, showed that they couldn't really handle adversity or clutch it out very well when things were on the line. So I think we're looking at them kind of being mediocre. And to be honest, if any stage was going to be their stage, it should have been stage 1, and it wasn't. So we'll see. I have Dallas Fuel at 13. Dallas Fuel to me
The lowest
is
of any of us, by the way.
Yeah, well, you have Houston the lowest of any of us,
True,
by the
true.
way.
Very true.
So there may have been some personal vendettas going in there. But no, I think for me, Dallas is a very good team with a lot of potential. I think their coaching is really, really strong. And I think their individual players are very strong. I think their issue is consistency. I think they struggle with winning on the weekdays, over the weekends. And like just when they play 2 games, I feel like they struggle pulling both of them out. I feel like they can't prepare for 2. And I think that is going to hold them back. I think when they start to play different teams and if they have multiple good teams in a week, they also tend to underestimate some of the good teams when they prepare. So I think that they kind of struggled there. But I do believe in their coaching staff. I think that if they do the right things, their coaches can bring them up.
Yeah, I think when Dallas starts to struggle, they definitely snowball down, which is hence why they got 4-0'd twice probably is because, like, once they start struggling, it's just a downhill spiral. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they're kind of missing that person on the team to bring them back up. Like you hear Fusions on Boston Uprising, for example, like really like pumping his team back up to get back in the game. Or like Jake on Houston Outlaws, like there's somebody there making them want to play and continue to get better in the game, even if they're 0-3.
That's really funny you say that. Didn't they have a guy like Custa or something? Didn't they used to have him on the team, I think, right?
Yeah, I
They
mean, like
did.
Mickey could
They
just
did.
smile and make everybody want to win, but we don't
Okay,
have Mickey
well,
smile on stage
We
anymore.
don't talk
so.
about what Kai did. What Kai did stays in Kai's. We just don't talk about that.
Dark times.
Dark times, yes.
Oh, God. All right, so number 12, I have Boston Uprising. I think that Boston Uprising is strong. I do. I believe that they have a lot of potential. I love Fusions. I don't think they have the depth to handle if Fusions is accidentally on a 2-way contract and can't play anymore. They lose to Shanghai, right? Like, I think there's just key players on their team that they can't back up. And I don't know what their team looks like in a different meta where Fusions might have to play Winston because his Winston is much weaker than his Reinhardt. And I know he'll practice and I'm sure he'll become a rock star at it. He's been playing a lot of Ryan lately. So I think it's definitely possible, but I can't rank them as high knowing all of that. And then at 11, I have Guangzhou Charge. And I think same thing that Brick was saying, they showed a lot of really good promise in stage one. They did lose to really good teams, and they kind of didn't impress me, but they didn't disappoint me either. You know, they were kind of just that like, oh, okay. So that's why they're at 11, you know, right there in the middle.
Just wait till you get to see Happy play some DPS. All right, I play. What about yours?
For me, I also have Houston Outlaws at number 15. I think that to me, Houston right now is like the best of the worst. Like they're one of those teams that does have teamwork. They get along really well. Their coaching staff is on it. They have really good support. But I just don't see any of their players having that X factor that some of the other teams have. Like aside from maybe watching Linkser in season 1 do some insane Widow stuff that did put him like up there with Carpe and some of the other players, nobody else in that team really has that. Like Muma and well, am I blanking on his name right
Ruckus.
now?
Spree.
No, Rocket, the diva player.
Cool, Matt.
Cool, Matt.
Cool Matt. Yeah, Muma and Cool Matt. Great synergy between them two, but when you start comparing them against like Bumper, when you start comparing them against guys like Fusions, there's just not that X factor, right? Like here comes Super, and then you look at Muma and Coolman is like, oh yeah, they're all right. So I just don't see him doing anything super incredible coming into the next stage, whether the meta changes or not. Going
hope you're wrong.
into, hey, listen, if they prove me wrong, I'm all in for it. But right now, I just don't see it. And 14, I got the Guangzhou Charge. They did okay last season, so I just kind of put them in there. London Spitfire at number 13. I did intentionally rank them a little bit lower, but not the lowest, just because you just never know with London Spitfire. They had a horrible stage last season. I think it was like stage 2 or stage 3 where they just like plummeted and you were like, hey, London is out of this race, and here they come and they win the entire thing towards the end. So I just can't rank him too low because you never know with those Koreans. Chengdu Hunters coming in at number 12. Again, Chengdu impressed us with all their cool victories, all their cool compositions, and I think going into this meta, their signature composition is getting even better. And like Mel was saying, like they've already been playing it for a while. Hammond is looking really good. The pharmacy is looking quite good, especially if you're gonna start running just like the Sombra. Doomfist seems like it's coming back, so he fits right into that style of comp. Sombra is only getting better. So
And-
yeah, I put him at number 12.
And we have no clue what other tanks can actually play Hammond. Like lots of people
Yeah.
switch to Hammond at the very end of a match. You know, it's kind of like switching to Doom or May just to get back to the point. But we just don't know. We do know that they can definitely play Hammond.
They can definitely play that comp. And like, yeah, like you said, we've seen a lot of Reinhardt play. We've seen a lot of Winston play. But Hammond? Who's going to have the true good Hammonds in the Overwatch League? We know that Chengdu definitely has one.
Muma can play Hammond.
I have
just
heard
saying.
that. I don't know if it's true.
We know OGE actually plays a really good Hammond from Dallas Fuel. I've seen him pull it out a couple times, and he's done quite good in it.
Can we talk about Gaguri too? Her Hammond in like week 1.
Oh, I must have missed that. I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
I don't remember
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah, because she had to go Hammond because the main tank switched to Reaper, right? So like she had to go do something.
Oh,
and
I do remember
Oh,
that.
this
Yeah,
was
I do
before
remember
they got
that.
their Reinhardt player, right?
before
Yeah,
Gamzu
before
like
Gamzu.
sold on. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
a
we'll see.
weird set of matches,
It
though.
was amazing.
Like, Reinhardt switches to Reaper. What is going on?
Lastly, though, here's my surprise pick, LA Valiant at number 11. And all of you guys ranked it really low. I can see why you would have ranked it really low. But I'm hedging my bets on them doing a lot better this stage. First of all, if Goats slightly diminishes, we might finally be able to free agilities and put him on the Pharah. And I think that the second that guy hits the skies is going to be a different story. Like the poor guy is just burnt out from swinging that flail around all day. You gotta give him a little freedom. Also, they're the LA team. Like they have a lot of resources. They're like hometown, right? Like Blizzard is there, and I think that they're gonna put the resources needed until that team does well again. And also, lastly, they had a rough season or a rough first stage. They had tough matches, and they just didn't just give them away. They were not
Yeah,
like
they went to
throwaway
5
matches.
on a lot. You're
Yeah,
exactly
so it's
right.
not like the team is looking terrible. Actually, they look pretty decent from just watching them play. Like their gameplay is not too far off from being a decent team. So I'm putting them at 11. I think that they had just a very unlucky stage, but I don't think that's gonna be a repeat next stage.
Great analysis on the Valiant there.
Thank you.
Great job.
I have to disagree with you.
Is somebody using a
Close
sink
is
at
only-
your house, Victor? Just sounded like a waterfall.
It's my wife's frying fish. I had to mute the mic.
Oh
Sorry.
wow, yeah, that's
Oh,
going through big
I
time.
thought that was the sign you were making after hearing.
All right,
I
well,
feel like close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right? Like, come on, just because you got close doesn't mean you're gonna clutch it out.
but I mean that was your excuse for Houston. But
Shut up.
moving on to my picks, I picked the Paris Eternal at number 15. I think that if DPS does get to play soon, is really good at just adapting to whatever DPS he needs to play. And Shadowbird is an amazing Genji and an amazing Pharah, and Pharah might be seeing some more play. So if they get to play DPS, yes. If Goat stays, then I probably should have put him at 20. But I mean, unless they get a Zarya in the off season. Number 14, I had the Hangzhou Spark. Until they figure out what main tank to use normally, I just do not trust them. And they have the chance to level up big time if Monkey comes in to play, and Gushwei is the starter, but they're just kind of dicey. Then on number 13, I have the Seoul Dynasty. I think I'm the lowest of everybody here. Guys, yes, they beat NYXXL, but they beat them just because they had Sombra. NYXXL's style is slow, allowing Sombra to get in whatever position she wants. Therefore, that makes their slow style of defensive play really suspect to a Sombra player. Someone like Boston can move in fast, making sure that the Sombra's out of position and doesn't get a chance to get in the right spot. So I really think if NYXL just made it past that match, we would have seen them in the finals with Vancouver, and it would have been just as good of a game as we saw with Shock versus Vancouver. Because really, NYXL's only weakness in the GOATS meta that I saw was Sombra. So I don't think Seoul's that good. Then 12, I have the Chengdu Hunters. Chengdu Hunters were exciting to watch, but I'm not putting them at a 3-4 record as one of the top teams. Then number 11, I have the Guangzhou Charge, which 3 of us have, everybody except Andreas. And I mean, it's just feels like
I have it at 12.
they're.
I have it at 12, so not very much further than you guys.
Oh no!
No, you had the Hunters at 12. You had
Oh, my
Charge
bad,
at
my bad.
14.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
But it's just like they have a lot of talent and they have a lot of chance. If DPS comes back in, I just letting you guys know, if you do fantasy Overwatch, definitely check out Happy. But yeah, those are mine. I saw that 3 of us had the Guangzhou Charge at 11. Does anybody else see anything they want to touch on here? To any combatants?
No, I just think Andres has the best lineup so far. 11 is the perfect spot for our boys.
Your boys being the LA Valiant, for anybody that doesn't know.
Yes, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm
I
the
think they
Westman
got that.
Valiant guy. Yeah.
All right. Well, does anybody have anything they want to You want to
Yes.
attack anybody on? Because
Yes.
this is the time. This is the time to fight.
I think everybody has the Chengdu Hunters listed except for me because you guys are all nuts. But that's fine. I also think London, like you guys all ranking London so low, like London likes to rest on their laurels. Like they just like to do as much as they need to get by, and then they'll work a little bit harder if they need to. But like,
You
come on,
need to
guys.
read a little bit better, because London hasn't even been mentioned on mine yet.
Well, it has on 2 of them.
Yeah, so I can even when I put him, it's quite possible in 2 weeks that they're in the top 10 again, right? So I mean, that's kind
Maybe
of weird.
they'll
I
probably
think that,
float mid pack, and then they'll
Yeah.
get kind of like bottom mid, and then they'll go to the finals and win it all,
like,
right? Like,
yeah, it's they're the major unknown for me. Even like
Yeah, they're a wild card. I ranked them low, like you said, but they could be number 1 next season. Who knows?
yeah, you never know. Like they're that team. As soon as you count them out, here they come, and they're 7-0 stage 2. So
Yeah, if
who knows?
Monkey
Who knows?
comes back, Gesture. If Monkey or Arissa comes back, Gesture goes from a joke to a bloke. I mean, he is an awesome Arissa and an awesome Winston. But
a bloke. What is your definition of a bloke?
I don't know. I just made that
Okay.
up. It just
You're
it
just rhyming,
rhymed.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just rhymed.
Got it.
But I
A
think
bloke is a man, so he actually.
yeah.
So
It's
right now he's not a man. I understand better. Last thing, if we could just settle on Gouchway being the starter because he's on my fantasy team, that would really help me out. Just saying.
Yeah, I think they definitely need to make that happen for sure. But let's go ahead and move on to a little more exciting picks. I'll go ahead and start off this time around, and then I'll throw it to one of you guys.
Yeah, let's get those top 10s in there. Let's do this.
All right. So, number 10, I have the London Spitfire. I think that the London Spitfire have underperformed. I think they are struggling in this meta, but the meta might be switching. And if Jester can play anything besides Ryan, he's gonna look good. Like, I don't know what his Hammond's like, but I know that his Arissa is one of the best that I've seen in the Overwatch League Season 1. Now, I know a lot of teams didn't play Arissa, but I just remember him in the finals shooting shields way over here. Like, I mean, just like 900 IQ shield placement with Arissa, whereas most Arissas put it right down in front of him. He shoots it 30, 40 yards in front of him to back up his DPS. I mean, he's just like, it's really neat to watch. And we know his monkey's good.
I feel like that's debatable if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, maybe he meant to shoot it in front of him, but...
No, I mean, like on Junkertown, 3rd-point defense, he would do things where he would come around the corner, shoot it up at the top level through the window, and set up his 2 DPS to just get picks and have have complete protection. So I mean, we
Very
talked
manly.
about it on this show. It was really good. Number 9, I have the LA Gladiators. I think the LA Gladiators have really started to step it up. I think that I think that Decay, once we get to see him on DPS, it's going to impress you even more than his Zarya play. Because his Zarya play is great tracking-wise and damage-wise, but not really great as far as bubble management goes, which is for most Zaryas in the league at the moment. Then at number 8, I have the Boston Uprising. Whether Fusions plays Reinhardt, or he plays Monkey, or he plays Ball, or he plays Orisa, or he plays Genji, like, the guy is going to be talking non-stop, and I think that is his biggest strength, and therefore I think that will help them move forward. Number 7, I have the Atlanta Reign. I would have had them higher, but losing Dafran, one of the most gifted mechanical talents that Overwatch has ever seen, I had to drop him down. Atlanta probably would have been number 3 for me had he not left. At number 6, I have the Dallas Fuel, your boys in blue. I just think that
One
Dallas
more
feels
pick.
a
Ooh, that's some
lot
confidence
better.
right there for the
Yeah.
boys in blue.
Yeah, I mean, like, you guys have not seen Zachary play. Zachary is a good DPS. I hope that he
I have
gets
seen
to
Zachary play a couple times.
one time, one
Has not
time,
impressed me.
World Cup, one time. But
No,
go
I've
back.
seen him play a lot.
Yeah, go back and look at him, you know, in contenders. And it really is, it's not a good argument because basically contenders means Jack in the Overwatch League. So
The
basically,
Vancouver Titans would beg to differ with you.
yeah, well, I mean, that was a whole team coming over. But like stats on
Yeah,
a
to be
team
fair, they were
in
the
contenders.
best Korean team.
No, I
man.
know,
It's like
I
a
know,
whole
I'm just
different
kidding.
level there.
This
Yeah,
is not even
so-
contenders.
So hopefully Zachary gets to play some DPS this stage so that he can really get the naysayers off. And I really think they have the best coaching staff in the league, and I think that's going to propel them if they can just get an in-game shot caller to really take lead. I think they have a good chance. I mean, I know that OG is working on his English hardcore to try and make this happen, but you know, it's just, you know, not happening. But those are mine. Mel, why don't you take the next one?
All right. At number 10, I have the Gladiators. And I think that the Gladiators showed themselves getting it together towards the end. I think they struggled to kind of figure things out at the beginning, but they really started to pull it together at the end. And I think that's why I have them ranked at 10 as opposed to a little bit lower because their record doesn't speak for itself there. At number 9, I have the Chengdu Hunters. I believe in my boys, and I just want to continue to watch them be amazing and entertain me. Win or lose, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to see them. So they're at number 9, okay?
You want to see him so bad, you are actually barking like a dog.
That's my actual dog.
I know, they just
Yes.
ran out of here.
Did you just call me a dog?
Oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding. I don't get offended easily. But I definitely would be Arya, not Finn. I just want to clarify that real fast. Okay, so at number 8, I have the London Spitfire. Again, I think London is good enough to know when they can kind of coast through a meta that maybe they're not great at, right? But win enough games and prepare for enough games that they can stay in the race, right? And I think that London will figure it out and they'll move it on up. 7, I have Atlanta Reign. Again, if they still had Dafran, I'd probably rank them higher, but they don't. And I think not that Dafran was the carry. I think there's a lot of good players on that team, but I think that Dafran was kind of the heart of the mentality on that team, right?
Really?
Like,
Do you think it's not Dog? It's not Dogman?
I think Dogman's mentality it comes a lot from Dafran, right? Dogman's the more vocal one, but he's more vocal, I think, because Dafran is there and he's able to play off of Dafran's just chill demeanor. And like, basically, I think Dogman gives the hype speech based on Dafran, like, hey, let's go Torb, Dafran, go Torb, Dafran, right? Like, everybody get hyped, like, let's do this. Like, a lot of that, I think, is centered around Dafran.
And then
Not that I don't
Dufresne
think they'll
goes, okay, dude.
okay dudes, they're like, no, really, Dafran, play Torb. But not that I think that they're going to be bad without Dafran. I just think it's going to take them at least a little bit to get that kind of oomph back, right? All right, then I have Seoul Dynasty at number 6. I do think that Seoul Dynasty proved a lot when they beat NYXL, and I know NYXL isn't the number 1 stage playoff champs, but they really were pretty good at stage playoffs last year. They just weren't good at the real playoffs, right? So I'm hoping that that says something. But I think Seoul really showed that they lost to them pretty bad, I think, in week 2 or 3, right? So it wasn't just the Sombra. Michelle was still in Sombra week 2 or 3. And I think they figured it out how to play against NYXL. And if you can figure out how to play against NYXL and beat NYXL, I think you can figure out how to play and beat anyone. Not that they will, but I think they have the capability and the discipline and the coaching to do that.
Well, Totably Drunk in chat hopes that you're right. Hashtag soulmate. What about you, iPlay?
All right, for my top 10, I went with Dallas Fuel at number 10. I think that they've proven that they have some promise in them. I really like OG's play. What's their Sombra player? I'm blanking out. DQB?
RCK, also their
RCK.
diva player.
Yes, RCK doing pretty good as well. I think that they have a solid lineup, especially if Soldier's looking a little better next season. AKM is probably gonna be really happy. And I think that AKM has had some trouble like fitting like that top tier of DPS players, right? He hasn't really like lived up to that promise, but again, he hasn't been playing what he's the best at. So hopefully this will give him a little bit of that edge. I do have him in a very middle ground. I don't think that they're gonna be beating any of the top teams anytime soon. But they're looking like they can beat pretty much any of the bottom teams right now. So I got him right at the middle. Then LA Gladiators, again, another team that had a lot of promise last season, but this time is not looking as good. I think that they have a lot of amazing players, mechanically good players, and that's why they kind of keep up themselves up afloat. But having said that, they were looking a little shaky, and their goats never looked on par. Maybe next season, if goats is not like super prevalent, Surfer will finally be able to break free, play some of the stuff that makes him really good, and especially hydration. Man, hydration needs a little break. I think he's been in a little rut, and especially because he hasn't been able to play those sneaky picks like the Doomfist that we always knew him for.
Well,
His
and
Brigitte
Roar.
last season, though, was top notch. Hydration?
Yeah, no, he has been doing okay, but like having hydration on Brigitte is not the same X factor as having hydration on
On
Doomfist or having on Farah.
Doom or Farah, yeah, definitely. And I think Roar has actually really improved here the last couple weeks, or the last week of the regular season, basically.
Yeah. At number 8, I do have my boys Atlanta Rain. I wish I could have put them a little bit higher, but with the friend leaving, like you guys said, that it leaves a pretty big what if. I do think that the rest of the roster is really solid, having Dogman, having Masa. Um, I think that'll be okay moving forward. I don't think they're gonna like fall down and just like be a completely different team. But I am a little bit concerned. We do need somebody to replace that hole that the Fran is leaving. And just from looking at Saria stats, I gotta link you guys a little bit of analysis I've been doing with the stats. But his Zarya, as far as the Fran is concerned, was doing okay. He was definitely above average, but he was nowhere near still Misu or Sinatra actually. So Misu and Sinatra were still
Or,
edging him by a little bit.
or even Nene, I think.
I think even Fleta had very similar stats, is not slightly better than the friend. And to be fair, it's not only dependent on Zarya, right? Like you're also counting on the rest of your team. I think that Reinhardt, for example, had a big factor to do with it. If you could get those shatters like Bumper or like Super we're getting.
One thing
But
you might not be thinking about too, though, is Dafran is like a savant of counting ults. So they're going to lose a big ult counter there. I mean, the guy counts ults on DPS, which just imagine if the guy played tank or freaking heal. Like, I mean, he was a big factor there. So I don't know who's going to fill that in.
yeah, that's the only thing that concerns me. As long as we can get somebody that can at least perform similarly to the Fran, I think that we might be okay and maybe able to hold that number 8 spot between 10 and 5. Toronto, I put them in slightly higher. The team is looking really good. To the next stage, they're going in unchanged. And I think that having this first stage for them to practice is going to give them even more of leeway coming into next stage. And at number 6, I'm putting Soul Dynasty. I was actually thinking about ranking this team even a little bit higher. Again, this is a team that looked a lot that received a lot of improvement last stage, and their players are looking really solid. Some of the plays that they were making were looking really good, and we had guys like Fleta, like I just mentioned. His Zarya was looking good. He was outperforming even guys like the Fran. And I think in part was because of Soul Dynasty's play and Michelle also. Man, that's the type of guy that I mean X Factor. Like, he carried certain matches. He absolutely demolished some teams with that Sombra. And having guys like him in a team is so valuable, especially in a meta where Sombra is not losing any of its value and probably is gaining a little bit more. So Soul Dynasty at number 6, but I'm tempted to rank him even higher than that.
Yeah, a lot of people would argue that Sombra is kind of a BS character and is kind of a gimmicky thing, but if we move to where comps are spread out, Sombra's usefulness goes way down. And Soul did get rolled right after they beat NYXL. So, but you're not the only one that had Soul higher. Victor, why don't you let us know what you had for your
Yeah, so I had LA Gladiators at 10. The reason I put them a little higher than some of the others was because of
Hold
some
on,
of the
hold
teams
on, real quick. You're cutting out. You might have turned your volume down too much or something.
This better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so the big reason I put them at 10 and a little bit higher than the rest of the other 3 and 4 teams, even to my own dismay, is because of the two of those teams they beat were San Francisco and Atlanta. That being said, though, of the 4 losses they had, they lost to Paris, Hangzhou, and to London, all teams that haven't looked great either. So, I mean, they're kind of up and down. But I think that the San Francisco and Atlanta wins at the time were pretty important, and they've kind of been trending up versus down. They started slower and then kind of picked it up as they went on. Atlanta Reign, before the Dafran retirement, were a little bit higher, but I think the loss of Dafran is kind of a big deal, which we've all been talking about, so I won't harp on that too long. But I still think there's an opportunity. I'm a big time wait and see. I think he was a big part of what they did there in Atlanta.
He was kind of like a mascot, you could probably think.
Yeah. He kind of seemed like the linchpin to that team. So we'll see going forward who that is, or someone to kind of take that mantle and help propel them forward. At number 8, I put the Seoul Dynasty. I came away pretty impressed with them from the stage playoffs. They obviously they beat New York 3-1. I think that win to them was important than any win they've had since becoming the Dynasty, simply because they finally got over that hump of never beating New York. And then they followed up by getting completely swept by Vancouver. So now they've got a new mountain to climb in Vancouver. The one thing I did notice, though, is of those 4 wins that they had in the stage, they didn't beat any teams with a winning record. And then you look at their losses, and on the same token, all 3 of their losses were to playoff teams too. So they're kind of like Houston in that sense, where they didn't really beat any teams that they should, or they didn't lose to any teams that they shouldn't lose to, but they didn't beat any teams that you would want them to beat to move up.
It's a really good
with the
point.
exception. Yeah, with the exception of the New York one in the playoffs, which is kind of why I bumped them a little bit up. Number 7, I put Dallas. I think I'm the highest or second highest. I think Bob got me by 1 spot.
Burn blue, baby.
They didn't make the playoffs, so a lot of people are probably like, why do I have them at 7, or in Bob's case 6?
One win and they were number 4.
Yes, please explain to me
in the
why.
rankings. One win and they were number 4 in the rankings.
Yeah, and they beat Seoul and Philadelphia out of those 4 wins, both playoff teams. One of their losses was to Guangzhou. Other than that, their other 2 losses were to teams with winning records. So they looked fine there. I think I'm not as big of a Zachary guy as Bob is, but I do agree with him in the sense that he is in Briggy purgatory right now. And I think he's going to start getting a lot better as he finally gets a chance to play something other than Briggy, very similar to my boy Agility's over the Valiant. Their coaching staff is very, very good. I think their coaching staff is extremely, extremely talented. I came away very impressed with their coaching staff the time I spoke to them. So I think they're better than a lot of people are giving them credit for.
I disagree.
And then at 6, I have Boston Uprising. I mean, if you look at them again, 4-3, lost in the quarterfinals to Vancouver. No one's mad at them about losing to Vancouver. Everyone's losing to Vancouver right now. They beat Seoul and Dallas, so I wasn't going to put Dallas above a team that beat them. First off, so I put them above Dallas for that reason. But then they lost to Shanghai, which was Shanghai's first like win, which is kind of a big deal. But again, there was no fusions for that. So I mean, fusions is kind of to me like their Dafran, like they go as he goes. So when he plays well, they play well, and that's kind of why I have them at 6. They've looked good, they've looked strong, and even like their quarterfinal loss, like I'm not gonna beat them up too much for losing to Vancouver. Everyone's losing to Vancouver, so
yeah. So one question I do need to ask you: where did the Briggy thing come from? Because you've said that in a couple interviews, and I've never heard Briggy. I've heard Brig. I've heard Brigitte.
That's just from me and my buddies. We actually just started calling her that when she first came out because we were tired of hearing. We didn't want to hear Baguette or Brigitte or Brigitte. Yeah. So we were just like, we're just gonna call her Briggy, and we just stuck with it. So that's just kind of something I've always called her and just stuck with it. Yeah, I never realized that I'm the only one that does that too.
Yeah, I was really curious because I've been editing the interviews and been like, Briggy, huh? Is that something they say at the arena that I'm just not privy to or something?
Yeah, no, it's definitely my own. It's my own thing. Yeah. So that's my bad.
So does anybody have anything they want to combat someone on? So
the only thing I see in here that I'm like kind of iffy is that Boston's Uprising on number 8. You don't have any faith in fusions?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have faith in fusions, but I do think DPS is going to come into the meta, and like I actually rated them higher than a few people. Like I just think that with fusions transferring over to Monkey, like it will be a little bit of a learning curve. He is extremely aggro Ryan, and as you know, and as I know, Monkey play is always 1 second away from feeding. You have to play more stealth.
So is his Ryan play. Let's be honest. It was 1 second away from feeding a lot of times.
Okay, Bumper has shown us that that's not true. So, but like, I love Bumper because, like, Bumper, you play like me, and I keep trying to tell my team, it's good. I have golds. No, I'm kidding. But
I got all the medals, guys.
Yeah, I just think that, like, I don't know what their DPS are like. Like, I really don't. Like, Haxel, I don't know.
You know what their DPS is like? You've seen Aim God just fragging with Zenyatta?
Yeah, their DPS,
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you got a Jonak. It's fine.
Yeah,
I guess my
really
whole
good.
thing with fusion is, yes, Boston Uprising, is that you can't rely on one player. And I feel like they do. I feel like they fell apart when Fusions was out of the lineup, just like Philly fell apart when Boombox was out of the lineup, right? And I feel like if you rely so much on one player, now I get it that you're going to not be as good because your team synergy isn't going to be as good. And in Philly's excuse, they had somebody playing an off role in there to sub in. But I just feel like if you're that reliant on one person, you're inevitably going to see adversity at some point because that person cannot carry you through the entire league.
Yeah,
unless you're Jonak.
I can see why you say that, right? Like, my mentality towards that is one player can make a roster. I mean, especially in a smaller roster where you only play 6. Like in a traditional sport, 11 players. Like the quarterback's obviously the most important player, but a lot of times the quarterback can't win a Super Bowl if the other 21 players around him aren't any good.
Listen, the Chiefs went to the playoffs with Alex Smith, so
yeah, that's my point. But like the rest of the roster's really good, right? So, but then you get guys like Dan Marino never could win a Super Bowl, and a lot of people think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. Overwatch, I think, is different in the sense that the rosters are much smaller. Like you only have 6 players. It's closer to basketball, I think, where one player can change the entirety of the entire projection of your roster, especially if that player is a massive improvement over the player he's replacing. I mean, just look at the Valiant, for example. Like Custa didn't play almost this entire stage, and they're 0-7. Last season, they get Custa, and they go from a middling team to second place. So I think that's why I have them where I have them. I think he's a player that's on a meteoric rise, and who knows? We'll see where we go from there. But
I think you make a good point, though. I mean, you kind of do have to compare the shot callers to the quarterbacks of the team, and until like Overwatch League allows a coach on stage to actually sit there and coach them during the game, then we're gonna see that same thing. Like your team captain, traditionally in esports, is your most important player. Like your coach isn't, but Overwatch could make that change by letting coaches, letting one coach interact with their team, spectate only their team, or even only one player. Like let them say, "I will spectate so and so," and that's the only one that they can be on. But they can call comp changes. They can allow the players to play and them to think. But yeah, until that happens, the team captain and the one that's calling the shots is going to be the most important player. And when they're out, aka Jake, you're going to play worse.
yeah, no, I fully agree. I think smaller rosters make bigger impact roster change.
Hey, you're still cutting out a little bit here and there. I think it's your noise gate on your
I'll try turning
Discord.
up the volume. Yeah.
Just like maybe lean forward more when you talk.
There you go. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Can we give a quick shout out to Itchaboyum?
Yeah.
Over a
Oh,
thousand
yeah.
bits?
Yeah, I was
the podcast tonight.
Yeah, I was definitely going to give him a shout out after the show for sure. Like, wow.
No, he deserves
Yeah.
on-air shout out for
Yeah, you guys beat me to
1,000+
it.
bits.
Thank you so
I got
much.
you.
I was literally sitting here thinking that I was like, we gotta say something to this guy, but you guys crushed it. So
All right, well, is everybody ready to move on to the GUI Center Creepy piece, the top
Yes.
5?
yes,
I feel like this is a
Let's go.
sprinkles, but yeah, okay.
Oh, no. It's the GUI Center, the best part. The sprinkles are like, the little,
yeah.
the addition.
As Paris would say, the creme de la creme, right?
Yes. All
Oh my
right.
God.
And there they are. Okay, so who has not gone first yet? I forget who. I think Mel hasn't gone first yet. Mel, why don't you take us away?
Well, I would, but they haven't come up. Oh, there they are. Okay. Okay.
You said you don't know your
so-
power rankings.
I mean, yeah, I totally have them memorized. All right. So at number 5, I have Philadelphia Fusion. I think that Fusion has done a really great job. They haven't shown me that they can beat the best of the best, but they have shown me enough that I think that they can stay at the top. I also think they have a lot of talent that can kind of adapt to different metas. So going into this not knowing where we're going to be in our meta, it kind of gives me the confidence that they have the players that can play different types of heroes. Number 4, I have Toronto Defiant. I think Toronto Defiant came out like completely exceeding my expectations of what they would do and how they would do it. And although they're not super exciting to watch, like so many people have said, it's not everything. I mean, I still put you at 4, even though I love to watch Chengdu Hunters, which I put at 9. Okay, so watchability and performance and fun little stuff is not everything. They find a way to win, and I think that that says a lot. I have NYXL at number 3, and I know this might be controversial. I think I have the lowest of anybody, but to me, I think NYXL has, on their pros, they have the ability to adapt in game most of the time until they played Soul Dynasty. But I feel like NYXL can take time to learn a different meta, right? When the meta shifts, NYXL takes longer to figure their style out based on that style. And I think we saw them come out strong in stage 1 because they had time to practice and figure out goats, right? Whereas in stage 4 of season 1, they kind of, not so much. Really made a lot of New Yorkers upset when they went to the grand finals. So I think that's why I put them at 3 and not in below Shock and Vancouver. I think Shock and Vancouver, so Shock I have at number 2. Shock, I think, is here only because of the fight they put up against Vancouver. Okay? I mean, their stage was great, but
4-3. Same as half the league.
okay. They were strong in the stage and they almost beat Vancouver. They took them to 7 maps, right? My thing about Shock is that I think once DPS comes in the meta, and I've said this a number of times, I think they will self-destruct because they have way too many DPS players on their team. And I don't think they're DPS players that feel like they shouldn't be a starter, right? I think that on New York, they've got players like Pine and, even Sabiobi, who's like, oh, it's cool, whatever. Like Pine's like, I don't want to play all the time. Like, I don't think Shock has those players. I think Shock has 12 DPS players that think they're the best DPS on the team. So we'll see how that kind of plays out with them. And then Vancouver Titans, I couldn't rank them under 1. Now, I know if the meta changes, we've got some discussions to be had, but to be honest, just the fact that they have Smurf, right? Don't they have Smurf? Who's like the cutest little minion on the planet? Like 5 years old, he looks like. I don't know. No, it's Stitch. It's Stitch, not Smurf.
Yes, yeah, Stitch is on
Stitch.
Vancouver.
It's like Lilo and Stitch. Okay.
He is a little
If you haven't seen a picture of him, please look it up because I swear to God, he looks like he's 5. He's the cutest thing in the world. So I just want to see him come out and click heads because I think that would be awesome. So.
All right, so I'll go second. I don't think I've went second yet. So I have Toronto Defiant at number 5, and they just keep impressing me, and like I really didn't know where to put them, but yeah, I really don't have an explanation for the Toronto Defiant pick, but I just didn't know where to put them, and they are good. But San Francisco Shock I have at number 4. The reason I have them at number 4 is because they were hit and miss throughout the entirety of stage 1, and yes, they came to play in the finals of stage 1, but I don't know that that's going to happen week to week. And just like Mel said, they have a lot of DPS. They have a lot of big personalities that, I mean, like I went to college and I lived in an apartment with 2 other alphas. And when alphas are together, it can get a little sticky, especially when you're 18. And so there could be a lot of fights that come up that really mess with their team's synergy, and I just don't know if they'll be able to keep that going. So that's why I have them at 4 instead of higher. I have the Philadelphia Fusion at number 3 because I think they are still a really good team. They are one of the highest rated teams as far as record. In the regular season, they have only lost 2 games, and it was without Boombox. So if DPS comes back, Carpe and EQO are going to clean up. At number 2, I have the Vancouver Titans because I don't know what they can do on DPS. I mean, like, if we have any DPS in the meta, I just don't know what they can do. And without the 3 supports, just judging from my ladder play in, low diamond 6 stacks, you can't survive playing the bumper play anymore because I went from being a monster to really having to use my shield way more than I ever had to. And I know that doesn't translate to pro play, but if 3 supports aren't in the meta, then Bumper runs into a lot of trouble.
No, Bumper plays Hanzo. Problem
Oh
solved.
yeah, yeah. Bumper plays
Gosh.
Hanzo. Yep. That was such a meme. And then at number 1 I have NYXL because the only thing I've seen them struggle against is a good Sombra player, and most of the teams of the league don't have that. So NYXL's slow and steady way to play. I think they will figure it out. I think they will still come out number 1. All right. Andreas or Brick, take us.
I guess I'll go. So I have Toronto at 5. By the way, Andres, your top 4 is perfect. By the way, I just want to throw that out there. I put Toronto at 5. Biggest reason I wasn't going to put, I wasn't going to put them down with some of the 4 and 3 teams, with the exception of one 4 and 3 team, which I have at number 3, which I'll talk about soon. But Toronto to me has kind of been the surprise of the first stage. I didn't think they were going to be a 5-2 team. Their only loss in the quarter. They lost in the quarters to San Francisco. San Francisco handled them pretty well. That's the reason I kind of moved San Francisco up. But if you look at their wins and losses, they beat Boston. That was their one signature win. But the other 4 wins were all against lower tier teams, all teams with losing records. But their only losses were to New York and Boston. So they didn't really have any bad losses. New York and Boston are both playoff teams. So that's kind of why I put them at 5. They're that team that's good. I just don't know if they're quite tier 1 yet. They're in that second echelon of teams, that tier 2 for me. I have Philly right there at 4 in that same tier. They're the top of the tier 2 teams for me. They beat Atlanta. They had a bad loss to Florida, but there was no boombox. But I'm kind of with Bob. They look strong. They're a DPS a meta away from really getting some sweet carpe plays. So I like them at 4. 3, I put the San Francisco Shock. I know a lot of people are really high on them right now, and with the way they played in the stage final, it's hard not to be. That's a lot of momentum they've got carrying for them. They looked really good in the stage playoffs. They handled Toronto in the quarterfinals, and then
the
the
semifinals were just pretty much a joke.
Yeah, I was gonna say so they handled Toronto in the quarters, and then they rolled Philly. So it was hard for me to put them below either of those teams, even though those 2 teams had the better record. And then they played Vancouver really well too. So their last 3 games they've shown a lot of momentum. But if you look at their previous 7 games, it was very everyone's been talking about. It was up and down. They beat Dallas, but they lose to the Gladiators. But then if you look at their other 2 losses, they lost to Vancouver and New York, the other top 2 teams. So, but then you look at their wins, and other than Dallas, they didn't beat anybody with a winning record. So they're very, their highs are high, and I think their lows are low. And I don't know if 3 is where they're going to stay by the end of this stage. Who knows? They could keep pushing the momentum they have, or they could completely fall apart. If it is a DPS meta, if anyone's going to have fun figuring it out, it might be San Francisco. But yeah, so 2, I put New York. I don't want to put them number 1, and the biggest reason is they've looked really good. Since the inception of Overwatch, they always look really good, especially in stage play. Even in this stage, they beat Boston, they beat Toronto, they beat Seoul, all in the stage. They didn't lose to anybody. But if you look at their playoff history, they have a little bit of a history of struggling in the playoffs. Stage 4 finals, lost to the Valiant. They lost in the state or the season, I think, semis.
They've been pretty much hurting since stage 4 of last season.
So they're starting to develop this narrative that they can't win games that are the big games in the playoffs, right? So I don't know if that's an actual thing. Maybe by the end of stage 2, we're talking about, okay, yeah, it is New York. New York is the best team. But right now, I just can't put them at 1 until they start winning in big time matches. It's easy to go 7-0 when you're playing games that don't mean too much. But when you start playing the big matches, they've got a little bit of a choke factor happen to them right now. So that's why I put them at 2. And then number 1 is Vancouver. 7-0 in the stage, plus 18 differential. They won the stage. They beat San Francisco twice, once during the season, and then obviously at the finale. But I think, like, if you look at, I think at their, I'm not sure if I'm 100% accurate on this, but I think their 7 wins that they had in the regular season, with the exception of San Fran, were all against teams with losing records. So, I mean, obviously they're good. It's pretty obvious that they are, but we may see a little bit of a fall off with the meta change. Who knows? But right now, they're to me they're the number 1 team. And that's my top 5.
All right. Well, last but definitely not least, I play games. What do you think? Hold on, you're muted.
Oh, my bad. Here I am. I will say I pretty much agree with Victor. My picks for the top 5 are basically almost the same, except for the 5th. I chose Boston Uprising instead of Toronto Defiant. And this last group is what I like to call the lit group. And I like call them the lit group because these are the teams that I can see have players that have the fire burning inside of them. Like some of the other teams, great mechanics, some of them have great teamwork, etc. But like these teams have the players that have that X factor to me. Boston Uprising with fusions, Philadelphia Fusion with guys like Poco. You got San Francisco Shock with Super and Sinatra. You got Nixel with guys like Jonak. And Vancouver Titans, which just seemed like they were on a playground the entire stage. Those guys were not only tearing it apart, they were having fun. And these are the players that, or these are the teams that I think will rise to the top every time. Because to the players, it's not a matter of, yeah, I want to be on esports. Yeah, I want to be good. But they want to be truly the top of the top. And they've been just working their asses off to get there. Just look at guys like Fusion. Just like talking to that guy, you're like, man, he is destined to be in the Overwatch League. Or you guys talk to guys like EQO, and you're like, this guy deserves to be at the top. He's not only a great player, but his commitment to the game is at a whole nother level. And I think that that's what makes these teams so particularly good. I'm especially proud of San Francisco Shock. Super and Sinatra have finally blossomed into the promised players that they came into the league being. Um, Same with NYXL. Even though they didn't quite make it to the finals, they are the same solid team that we've seen. And I don't see any of the lower teams just beating them anytime soon. I do think that they have their work cut out for them. They're going to definitely have to watch out for those Sombra players. San Francisco Shock is no joke. And now they have another Apex Predator in the line with Vancouver Titans. So it's not going to be as easy for NYXL. That's why I put them on number 2. I think we might see them concede some games come stage 2. Vancouver Titans are looking so solid, and even though there probably might be a slight change of meta, I think that goats will still be played every once in a while. And not only that, but their teamwork and their synergy are like on par to no other team over here. They remind me of New York Excelsior last season when nobody else could beat them. Their teamwork looks super solid. They don't forgive mistakes, and their focus is so incredibly good. Some of the plays that they've been doing in this meta have been amazing, especially the way they contest points. Some of the points that they've won after losing their Reinhardt or losing a hero at the start of the match have been short of amazing. They have great timing, and they're one of those teams that are really hard to just throw off balance. Even if they lose a player at the beginning of the match, they're one of those teams that can still even edge out and win it towards the end. They're ultra aggressive. They're not afraid to use their ultimates, and almost every player in their team has carried at one point or another.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like we didn't even mention we didn't even mention Slime. Like he might be the best Lucio in the game. I know.
Slime, man, insane.
Like I know the Lucio nerf is coming and it's coming pretty hard, but like that guy, like everyone talks about Bumper as the flashy guy, but Slime is the one that makes that car go. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, to be honest though, flashy Lucios, like AKA Reddit Lucios, are actually going to look to an uptick in play in this meta. Teamwork Lucios are going to look to lose capabilities. So
yeah.
Any Lucio that's really good at boops and everything else, if they get to play Lucio in the comp, then they're going to be able to get to those targets faster and surprise targets sooner.
Yeah, that guy is he's a freak. He's so good.
Also,
He's so good.
Also, this guy doesn't get talked to as much, but Seomisu, the Zarya player for Vancouver Titans, he is a beast. If you look at his stats, he doesn't output as much damage as Sinatra, for example, but he's at the top of the league for converting his damage into eliminations. That means that not only he's putting damage close to what Sinatra is putting, he's getting more kills than Sinatra is. And that might have to do with the way that the team works together, and the synergy that they have. If you go look at the finals, both teams were constantly looking to get the Zarya, especially with a Shatter, because that's like the best guaranteed way to just be like, okay, we're getting Zarya over here. But if you look at the performance of both teams, Super was probably getting as many Shatters, if not more, than Bumper in that series. But having that said, that it was Vancouver Titans who was converting those shatters into kills more often than not.
Correct.
Before the team could react, that Zarya would be erased. But on the other hand, San Francisco Shock had a little bit of trouble with that focus. Bumper would bring down the Zarya, and she would still survive after that. So
Yeah,
it speaks a lot for
Siam
the team.
Su, I believe, is one of the lowest deaths per 10 minutes as Zarya. I mean, the thing that
He's been
Bumper
insane.
has that Super didn't have is Bumper has the 180 shatters. I mean, he has those like carry plays on Ryan, whereas Super played a better game, a more sustained game, but Bumper just literally 180 shattered 4 people multiple times in that last finals matchup.
I think it was more about his sneaky plays.
I
Where he
don't
uld
know.
hide.
I mean,
I
it
think
literally
I think those were
was.
game changers.
It literally was like one time I remember like 0.3 of Rialto. The Titans are on D. Bumper misses a charge and charges way past the enemy team, but only 3 people that can't stop Shatter chase him. Their Reinhardt doesn't come, Super doesn't come with him, and then Bumper just turns around from the charge, shatters all 3 of them, wins the team fight. I mean, it's
You wonder
literally
if that
carry
was like
plays,
a mistake gone good or like
which is
a high IQ play.
no,
right?
no.
Like
Lots of Bumper plays, I think, are mistakes gone good. It's just like
he's
it's
like, well, I'm here.
like
Oh, look at that.
most professional Ryans would have missed that charge and just accepted that they died. But Bumper turns
Bumper doesn't
around and uses his ultimate, which, most people are taught to save. But he just uses it, and then they end up winning the team fight because of it. I mean, it was a
But I
dumb
think the
play
difference
that
is
works out good, and he has so many of those.
Right,
Well,
but the
it's
difference is that
a
I think the team is there for Bumper, right? Like the team
yeah,
is supporting
exactly.
Bumper. Like if Muma charged out and turned around and had this badass shatter, his team would have sat there like, "What the hell, dude? What are you doing over there?" And I just think that it's the
It's like
Jonak effect.
I was literally
like
about to say
a
that. Yeah.
trustful exercise. I feel like he'll
Right,
blindly shatter just because he knows that his team is there to catch it. Basically,
right.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. I was just about to say the exact same thing. Like it's the kind of the Jonak effect. Like NYXL plays around Jonak, Vancouver plays around Bumper, and like I think honestly, like if you watch the NYXL or not, excuse me, the Shock Vancouver final, like Super, I thought outplayed him for most of the match. Like I thought Super was the better Ryan, but it was the other plays that the team was
But it
making
wasn't
around.
crazier.
No, yeah, it
I
wasn't
would
for
say
sure
that
not, yeah.
Super played the smarter game.
yeah,
Bumper
Super was
played
super
the carry
conservative
game.
and very smart.
Yeah, he
Bumper was a little more erratic.
He played
Super
the
was
traditional pro role.
traditional.
Yeah, he played the traditional pro for sure. Yeah.
Bumper was, oh, what you got? How about this?
Yep, it's just like turn around. I see 3 people, shatter.
Nothing's funnier though than watching teams come into a choke and like walk to a door and then turn around and like check the little like areas just to make sure Bumper's not there trying to do this crazy, stealth shatter. Like that's hilarious, but that is a mind game with teams,
Yep,
right? They
definitely.
can't just walk in knowing that there's not a crazy Reinhardt behind us. Like, like that doesn't happen with most teams, but it does with Vancouver. And I think that's a mind game for people.
I mean,
it gets the players back. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, it's honestly just like when we six stack often, like sometimes we six stack with like low plat, sometimes we six stack high diamond. In the low plat ones, we run into all these flanking McCrees, flanking Brigitas, like all this weird stuff that catches us off guard. And
we were getting destroyed by Reaper.
Yeah, I mean, just like
remember,
just like weird stuff that doesn't happen in low diamond six stacks. You can pretty much guarantee where the team's going to be setting up, but then like all of a sudden we're setting up for an attack, and flanking McCree comes around the corner, or flanking Reinhardt comes around the corner. That's just something you don't see. So I think that definitely helps Vancouver out in just playing with the mind game. That's a good point.
Yeah, it kind of gets the other guys back to the old CS days. Got to check your corners. Always check your corners.
All right. Well, does anybody have anything else to add to the power rankings? This is
no.
I think
Great
mine
job.
are the best.
This is our longest episode ever, but I do want to hit the questions.
Oh.
Yeah.
First thing next week?
Nope. That's what we said last week. One of the questions was from Shazir, and this question is for Korean players. Korean players have a mandatory civil service, and he wants to know how that affects their plans at being a pro esports athlete. What we're going to do for this question is we're going to put it to Brick Victory here, and we're going to ask you, the next Korean player that you talk to, you make sure and hit this point up so that we can get an answer for Shaz. Okay?
No problem. I kind of have an idea what my answer might be.
Well, I have looked it up too, but I want to know from them, because I doubt that all of them have served that time, because some of them are just turning 18, and I want to know how that works, and when. I just want to know from their mouths and not from Wikipedia.
Yeah, I bet they probably treat it the same way like service members for the Naval Academy and Army and Air Force that play college sports and then project to the NFL draft. Probably do it the same way. Yeah.
According to Wikipedia, they are not exempt like pro athletes.
So no waivers.
Yeah, so definitely ask that question on your next Korean interview. The other one is from Wood Tier Guru. So he wants to know what needs to happen for the LA Valiant to succeed in Stage 2. They've gone from third place finish in Season 1 to 0-7 in Season 2. They made head coach changes recently. Will this help? Is it the meta? Is it a lack of talent or teamwork? What do you think the problem is? Anybody, go ahead and take it.
Should I do it as the Valiant guy? Should I just take the charge here?
I'm just gonna say one quick short one here before you get into it. One word: unlucky.
Unlucky. Yeah. So to kind of jump on what he was just saying, unlucky. Yeah. I think it was a combination of a few things. They had a tough schedule to start. Like they played a really tough lineup of teams. They did not play who I don't think he's their best player, but I think he's the guy that kind of makes the car go in Custa at all. I think he played 6 maps the entire stage.
He's their Jake, but he's actually better than Jake. Yeah, but he's their voice.
Yeah, he's the voice in the room that gets people ready to go, right? And I know that the Valiant really want Space to kind of take that role and have Space be that guy, but. And he's a good leader, but it's kind of hard. Like an off tank, that's just not like the off tank job, right? That's your main healer and your main tank role. I think moving away from Coach Moon is going to help, and that's no disrespect to Coach Moon. I think he did a fantastic job. Without him, they probably would never have won Stage 4. But I feel as an outsider looking in, of course. I felt he had a huge desire to make the roster mostly Korean for communication points, which is why they kept forcing a main tank and Kuki into the main healer role, even though I don't think I'd ever seen him play main healer. And then he chose to follow up like the question around that with an answer of like, Custa has a big brain rather than like just play Custa, So
This is the epic fail of LA Valiant.
yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah,
I
that
don't.
didn't come out right.
Yeah, it came out. Yeah, maybe lost there. Maybe
It came
their
out
train lost.
exactly how LA Valiant wanted it to come out, though, because
Yeah.
it came out on their channel. Let's
Yeah,
not.
well, it didn't help that. I feel like there may have been something lost in translation there because like not only did
think so,
they remove they removed the coach, but when they removed the coach, they also changed translators. So
He's like, all right, if
So
I'm going out, he's
why
going out
can't-
with me, because I never said that.
Why can't Toronto hire that translator? If they were already there, and we can't get an interview with Toronto, why couldn't they hire that translator?
You mean
Because they
Vancouver?
didn't want to say big
Vancouver.
brains. They didn't want to say like nobody had a big brain. Like
Yeah.
they were just worried about.
I think the Vancouver thing is a measured response too. I think if they think they can keep as many people out of the media away from them as possible, they can focus on the game. Personally, that's what I think's happening. I think they're trying to avoid the translator to keep them focusing on games and away from the media.
Overwatch
Victor's
League,
learning his
not
Korean,
okay.
so
Not okay.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm working on my Korean.
he's gonna have multiple questions translated so he can ask.
I don't think the Valiant issue is a meta issue. I think they struggled in this meta. I don't think they were particularly the worst team in the meta. I think getting away from the meta will help them.
They were technically the worst.
Technically, yes, they were the worst team. Yes, technically, record-wise, yes, they were the worst team in the meta. But I think getting away from the meta will help them, though. I think that's going to you'll get to see more of Agility's back on traditional roles and making the plays that he knows he can make. I think he more than even like the Kareev moving from a support role over to a DPS role has been the biggest weakness for the Valiant. I think there's
no DPS. You can't move over to a DPS role when there's no DPS.
Yeah, I do worry that those are their only two DPS. I do worry about that.
Well, KSF is there, and he's a very, very capable Widow. I don't think that'll be his role. His Soldier is actually top notch, so maybe we get to see more KSF now that the Soldier seems to be a thing. His Soldier's really good. But yeah, so I think it was a combination of a few different things, but I think going into the stage they'll have those things rectified. They had a month off, so hopefully they have those things rectified going into their first match. But of course, their first match I think is against the Shock. And the Shock are already memeing them and saying like, we're looking forward to a tough matchup. Like, April Fools, they posted that on their Twitter today. So, but I think if the Shock aren't careful, they're setting themselves up to lose to a team that hasn't won yet. So they better be careful though.
Yeah.
Don't want to be another Boston.
And so now you see why I wanted to take that question here, because we have a Valiant super fan in the house and we would not have that next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next week we actually have Fist from Lagging Balls on this show, so
Yeah.
enjoy that, guys. But
Good
we are gonna wrap up. This is the longest episode we have ever done, so yeah, wow.
Sorry.
Happy to be a part of it, guys.
Yeah, I guess we probably should plan accordingly for this, because power ranking episodes do seem pretty big. Maybe we should split it up, but
Yeah.
we'll definitely split it up during the break between stage 2 and stage 3, because there's a month break there instead of a week break. But this might be a thing, stage 3 to stage 4. But we are going to wrap up. So guys, pick'ems. We will be doing, or at least I'll be doing. I don't know if anybody else has to leave because this episode is super long. But I'll be doing we had a 4-way tie in the Pick'em League for the sweatshirt. I'll be doing a quick random.org of the 4 people that tied there with 52 after the show ends in the post show. You can join our Pick'em League by going to highnoon.gg and clicking on leagues at the top right. We are one of the featured leagues. You can also check the link in the show notes. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at OWLRecap, OWL Recap. Please follow us. If you want to say something a little longer in an email, or you just want it to be private, send to contact@owlrecap.com. You can always find us squatting in the Omnic Lab Discord. They are a great community. Andreas runs with Rob May. The Omnic Lab podcast. It's one of the best strategy resources that you can find, and they have some new Patreon things going for $2.50 Patreons. You can get coaching from the men themselves. Also, Omnic Lab game night. We had it this last week. We had 2 lobbies going. It was a blast. Andreas, you want to say anything about Omnic Lab game night?
Yeah, come hang out with us. It's super fun. Last time we got to practice a lot of the new meta, a lot of new heroes. I played a lot of Hammond, which was super, super fun. Everyone's like, Andres, are you a tank main now? I'm like, no, boys, don't get excited. I just like playing Hammond. But yeah, come hang out. Like Bob said, we got new perks on Patreon as well. So if you guys want some coaching and your patrons have Omnic Lab, that's a place to be. We'll do an hour coaching with you. We'll actually sit down and just either play with you in comp or quick play, or if you want to just sit down and review a VOD, we can do that too. So take advantage of that.
Yeah, and that's always at the last Friday of every month. So
yeah, I just did my first one this week. It was a lot of fun. I will definitely be.
I'm glad we can make it.
Yeah.
It's a fun time for sure.
Yeah, and so you can join that Discord by going to discord.me/OmnicLab. Also, we stream live on Twitch every Monday night at 10 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. PST. So come join us at twitch.tv/AlRecap. Also, how can you support the show? You can support the show by just pasting it everywhere. Facebook, Reddit, whatever you can think of, Twitter. I mean, tell your friend at the gas station. Just spread the word. That's the best way to help us. You can also leave us an iTunes review. We read 5-star reviews on the show. You can also help us out financially if you are so inclined. You can go to patreon.com/AlRecap, and any little bit helps. We love every one of you, and $1, $50, whatever. Thank you. All right. iPlay, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games.
And Mel, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at MelOverwatch.
And Victor, where can we find you?
Twitter, Instagram, Discord. I'm at BrickMcVictory. I also Twitch as well. Twitch.tv/BrickMcVictory. I stream pretty regularly. Come hang out. I always like company. So.
Hold on, man. I'm going to have you do that one more time because you cut out a whole bunch.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. Yeah, sorry. So I'm at Twitter, Instagram, at BrickMcVictory. You can follow me there. I also stream pretty regularly, twitch.tv at BrickMcVictory. I always enjoy the company, so please come hang out.
And as always, you can find me on Twitter and everything that I do at Blazzin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. This has been Al Recap. You guys have been amazing. Another shout out to Itch, your boy, for all the bits and chat. We are out, guys, and we're not going to go dude anymore.
No more go, dude.
Oh, that's sad.
Oh.